Okay, it's Monday, and most of you know what that means. It means we're going to take a look at the Fukushima issue with Michael Collins, and if we can get him, Yoichi Shimatsu for the second hour, but he is always traveling, and he does his best. Very busy man, one of the world's foremost authorities on this continuing catastrophe, which is there's no end in sight. Let's just put it that way. Not only is there no end in sight, there is no actual technology in sight to deal with the problem over there. It's just mind-boggling. Before we jump into that, let me mention one thing about the Gulf of Mexico disaster. There are microbes, little organisms in the Gulf, which may be mutated now from the Corexit. And they're doing things to the sea life in the Gulf, especially crabs and lobsters, with actually the kind of results that see their appendages fall off. Their little legs, their pinchers, they fall off. A very high incidence of eyeless shrimp as well. We'll have a video up on that a little bit later on. I mean, it's not good. It's not good at all. A new book out by a Fukushima worker. I believe he worked at Fukushima Daini, not Daiichi. The other complex, it was, I guess it's 10 clicks down the road from Daiichi. The Daini reactor, the guy says, he was an employee there, may be broken through. In other words, a melt-through. Nobody's talking. Wouldn't surprise me in the least, and I'm sure Yoichi would agree with that as well. All right, up first with us this hour, and maybe for the whole hour, we'll see, Michael Collins of EnviroReporter.com, whose lovely wife Denise allows him to bring this information forward each week. Without her, he wouldn't be here.
That is correct. And if it weren't for you, I wouldn't be here. And when we talk about what's going on over at the complex at Daiichi, to think that something as big as Daini could have happened, and they've managed to keep a lid on it, if that's the case, is unbelievable. But there's been so much radiation released,
right?
And the readings are so high for so far distances, as we know, into Tokyo,
right,
that you could effectively hide it, because this is an unprecedented amount of stuff that it has been let go. But I have to say, Jeff, something that really struck me in a photo from a TEPCO handout that the fine folks at ENA News have put up. It says, white sheets covering surface of spent fuel pool number 4, seen during top officials' tour of Fukushima Daiichi.
Exactly.
Now, it doesn't look like they're in the building. It looks like they're outside the building, and I may be confused, but I thought that this was maybe it spent pool number 4, not the reactor itself. But this is what strikes me about that photo, is that there are at least half a dozen guys all dressed up in semi-protective hazmat.
I was going to say useless, but semi-protective. I'll give them that. It's silly.
Sure. No
silly
respirators.
No.
That they are absolutely being exposed. But the point is, they are there. So then the question for me, and I think for us, becomes, wait a minute. You're telling me you can't get these guys to go brace up that hanging spent fuel pond and dry cask the stuff in it? I mean, if you can walk around this stuff like that, it begs credulity. I mean, it's like all of a sudden, hey, no, we're just walking around. I know we look a little intense looking, but they're not even thinking about it anymore because they know that nobody's going to notice it.
Well, here's the caption of the story. This is from XSKF, another wonderful site. ENE News is probably the number one most busiest. XSKF is top of the line. Wonderful work. Here's a quote. It looks like, this is again looking at a photo of the alleged top of the spent fuel pool at Reactor 4, which is now outside. It used to be covered. Of course, it was inside the building, 100 feet up, 10 stories up there about. It says, it looks like the government's public relations effort to show that the Reactor 4 spent fuel pool and the top floors of the Reactor 4 building are not toppling over, leaning over. Reactor 4 spent fuel pool on the 5th floor. Well, it's higher than that. That's 50 feet, but it goes up higher. I suppose it is buried under the white plastic sheets. There's a very large white plastic covering what is purportedly the square top of this spent fuel pool. Now, what Michael said is that they supposedly have braced it up. Unless this photographer is really leaning, this building is leaning. You can look at the picture. You can see the green steel beam behind, and then look at the angle of the foreground. It's actually a little more acute than the angle in the back. The entire building does appear to be leaning to the right. If you look at pictures taken at distance, you can see it is clearly leaning. We've been pointing this out for the better part of a year now, that it's leaning to the right, probably 15 degrees. Now, what they've gone in and done is gone to the bottom of this pool and put a lot of bracing hardware on it. But it doesn't have to fall to the ground to have the same catastrophic effect on all life as we know it in the Northern Hemisphere. It simply needs to develop a crack. And the building, as we know, they're all junk. They're literally decaying. The nuclear radiation is having an effect on the steel, and these things could go at any time. One 7.0 quake could take Reactor 4's SFP down, Reactor 3 SFP, which is a pile of rubble now, with a 35-ton crane sitting on top of it that has crushed in much of the handles and the tops of the fuel assemblies, which tells me the fuel assemblies themselves almost have to be broken up in many cases and sitting on the bottom of the spent fuel pool in the water. And as soon as that water goes away, it's over. So that's their big fear. Go ahead, Michael.
Well, that's a hard act to follow. And clearly your knowledge about 4 here is better than mine. I'll tell you why. I'm surprised about this here photo. First of all, you're absolutely right, and I'm sorry, folks, if you can't see this, but what I don't understand is from other photos I've seen of this from the side of the building, I can't see how there is that much light there, number one. So to me, it feels like it's not the same place. But let's just say that it is. Here we have, pardon my mistake, I thought there's no way this could be that pool, because if guys are walking around it, why aren't they fixing it? Do you know, I mean, what is this? Where is the intelligence,
right,
and at least the American administration to go, wait a minute,
right?
You guys are just going to let it sit there?
Yeah.
I mean, we got people that way out there, a couple echoes across the mountains of this great country saying, you got to look at that thing. Why aren't superhuman efforts being put into this? It's outrageous. These guys are lollygagging around without respirators.
Well,
come on.
Can't answer that one. That's just cuckoo. Of course, much of the Japanese culture is acting in a very illogical fashion when confronted with this kind of a danger. They are literally living in a radioactive zone that ought to be evacuated, Tokyo included, and they're not going to do it. So there's a picture. I'll put that up shortly, and you'll see it tonight. Nuclear consultant examines number 4 spent fuel pool scenarios. Loss of water versus scattering of fuel rods. There's another story which we'll talk about. Here's a little bit from that one. And again, Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon went over there and came back a changed man, fortunately. Here's a little excerpt from the highest risk problems of radiation at Reaction Unit 4, Fukushima Daiichi. This is from the Asia Pacific Journal. And it says, in the event of further severe damage to the spent fuel pool in Unit 4, what are the options of TEPCO? Water spraying and the use of materials such as boron and sand would appear to be most relevant. The risk is that with water spraying on Fukushima Daiichi Unit 4, following a loss of the cooling water and even collapse of the building, this could make the solution worse. If the spent fuel rods have gone beyond 900 degrees, then the water will provide further oxidation, helping to release more radionuclides into the atmosphere, no question. The zircaloy fuel cladding around the thousands and thousands of fuel rods at Fukushima Daiichi ignites at 900 degrees and above. Boom. Fuel melting as seen in the cores of units 1, 2, and 3 occurs at 2,800 degrees. Now, that's in the core. In the spent fuel pool, they can go off at 900 degrees. It's crazy. Just crazy. Hold on, we'll come right back with Michael Collins. Okay, and back with Michael Collins. There are thousands and thousands of people, tens of thousands of them, still living today in way over limit, far too dangerous. They should be evacuated. They're living in highly contaminated areas all around the Fukushima Daiichi plant. They've been abandoned by the government to die. They're just going to get sick and die. Not tomorrow, not next week, not next. It's going to happen, though. They're getting sick. This is bioaccumulative. Nuclear expert. Oh, go ahead, Michael.
No.
I just want to do a little bit more on spent fuel pool 4. Forgive the belaboring of this. We've made the point. But the more data I get, the more convinced I am that these TEPCO people they're beyond criminal. Beyond. So far beyond.
What you're saying has direct implications for the lives of the people listening to us, because it obviously then follows that if these kinds of decisions are being made, that the powers that be in Japan, TEPCO, the government, could possibly be deciding, you know what, you don't matter and we know it, and we're going to let you back in there because we just can't allow that region to not be occupied when the place is poisonous. Or they're doing it through incompetence, and I don't buy that. Japanese people are pretty smart. What that means to us is they couldn't give a rat's backside about us. So what does that mean? Well, we're going to look to our government to protect them. And as any regular listener knows, that idea went away long ago, coming up on a year where the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, EPA, said, you know what, our special testing for Fukushima contamination fallout has going to come to an end. And as a matter of fact, we're ending it right now. And 10 days later, TEPCO comes out and says, well, yes, there were 3 full meltdowns. First time they said it.
Meltdown, melt through, and gone.
Yep. Or to where? Who knows?
No, nobody knows.
But the idea of this kind of inaction when what's at stake is so grave. I mean, we've talked ad nauseum about this building leaning, but folks, that thing lets go. Done. Toasted. We have an ambassador in the last week who has put forward information about how many fuel rods are in that pool and what it would mean. And it's a former Japanese ambassador to a couple of countries. I mean, you know, what's at stake here? To see people just walking around it, when if it were me, I would know this. That building must not fall. And so you've got to brace it up. And how do you do that on the fly? Down on the beach, you load sandbags. And you just build them up and up and up and up, and it takes a Herculean amount of effort by basically doomed guys. And but they could brace the thing up, and it would allow for whatever technology, whatever decision had to be made in the future. How are we going to get into this thing? It would prevent it from getting knocked over in the next big quake.
Well, we think it depends upon the kind of quake. The geology of an earthquake is never the same. You got shear, you got cut, you got all kinds of movement. And it depends on the depth, it depends on the shallowness, it depends on all kinds of things. The number of tons in spent fuel pool, remember this is between 50 and 100 feet off the ground. This is crazy. The building is wrecked, it's leaning over. 460 tons, right? That's 920,000 pounds of enriched nuclear fuel in that pool. And if it cracks and you can't cool it, it goes fissile in 24 hours. That's the word. 920,000 pounds means 92,000 10-pound units. Well, what does that mean? 10 pounds of enriched uranium, plutonium, makes a nuclear bomb. There are potentially 92,000 nuclear bombs in that one spent fuel pool.
If that one goes, the other six, because there's 7 of these things, one for each reactor in the common.
It doesn't mean, Michael, that it's going to blow. It means that it will ignite and explode pretty much in place. It will sit there like a funeral pyre of radioactive death. No one will be able to cover it. It has any kind of containment around it at all. Spent fuel pool number 3 is even in worse shape. That's what Arnie Gunderson says, because that 35-ton crane is on it. Folks, they can't even get near SFP number 3 because of the gamma rays coming off that. They can't get near it. It's trash. They've got no way to deal with it. Anybody approaching it will die. Those little paper suits they're wearing are a joke. So it's just not going to happen. And yeah, 2 of them could go at least. And then life as we know it literally will never be the same. Not in the Northern Hemisphere. That bad. This is crazy. This is completely crazy.
Anybody running for office being called out about it?
No.
Because, I mean, what is it? Is it just a non-event now? We had Ambassador Murata, who is a former ambassador to a couple of countries, just come out and say, if this happens, if number 4 goes, just what you say, Jeff, it will release 85 times as much cesium-137 as Chernobyl.
Correct. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, 85 times the amount of Chernobyl. Remember, Chernobyl was a new reactor. It was only a few months old. 460 tons of fuel at this one spent fuel pool. There are 6 or 7 on the property. The numbers vary. I believe there are 6 because these are all boiling water reactors, and each of the Mark I design calls for it's insane, an elevated fuel pool to hold all of these assemblies, the fuel assemblies.
How many of these Mark I's do we have in the United States?
23, I think.
23 or 24.
Something like that.
That's right. Couple of dozen.
Yeah, it's crazy. They're just trash. They should be shut down years ago. Hold on, back in just a minute with Michael Collins. Back with Michael Collins, talking about our future, which literally hangs in the balance. In the case of spent fuel pool number 4, it is hanging at about 15 degrees. And TEPCO goes home every weekend. Nobody works. All right, Michael, what do you want to talk about next? Your work and research in terms of the nori, the seaweed from Japan, which made some big news, double the radioactivity of a year ago, and that is a year ago after the accident. So it's obviously accumulating.
Since the last time we talked, and you folks get it first on the Rense Radio Network, because we've talked about this, but not in the depth, obviously, that one can get into in an article. But this article does put the meat on the bones of this story, which is that we
wait a minute. Say fruit on the tree. I'm a vegetarian.
Fruit on the tree. Very good. Yes, very good. What we do is we go beyond just talking about that. We found once again that Japanese seaweed bought at a store in Los Angeles came in high in radiation, about double normal. And we also we bought the same brand of seaweed that we had bought at the same store about 8 months before. And we did a lot of crunching of the numbers, and none of it is good. And that's really fleshed out in this, and people should go take a look. There's been so much going on since we last talked. It's just amazing. But this particular article is important because your listeners care about their health, and it's not just for seaweed anymore. You know, seaweed's used in all sorts of products, and and
Well, that's
90% of it comes from the Far East.
Carrageenan, yes.
Carrageenan. But I'll tell you something. When we think about that pool up there, get outraged, not get outraged, just look in horror, just not really. Maybe it doesn't get home to some people, but I'll tell you what does. We had an earthquake down here in California, Southern California, this morning at about 10:37, and it was a 3.9, and the epicenter was about, less than 10 miles away on the coast from the San Onofre nuclear power plant. And it came from a new fault, or a fault that was discovered about 13 years ago, called the San Joaquin Hills Thrust Fault. And this fault, according to the LA Times today, scientists believe that the San Joaquin Thrust Fault is capable of generating a magnitude 7 quake or greater. The Southern California Edison, that owns SONGS, which is what it's called, San Onofre Nuclear Generating Station, SONGS, they came out and proudly trumpeted about, 3 months after Fukushima. Jeff, you know this. They came out and said, we can handle a 7 earthquake.
Oh, yeah, sure. Big.
Well, we just find out that a fault that's on their front door
right.
capable of a 7, and it just cut loose. Now, when you go look at the LA Times piece, you'll see this nice earthquake map. What they don't do is connect the dots. There's a big fault that just runs offshore of San Onofre. And while the plant is not is shut down because after 20 months, the Mitsubishi, I can't say it right, Mitsubishi Corporation built 2 new generators for these huge reactor complexes, and they have had all the problems that we've talked about. But now we're at a situation that after this happened, after this quake happened, LA Times for the first time managed to get an interview with Southern California Edison, Jeff, where the head of SoCal Edison, or one of the almost heads of SoCal Edison, said, we don't see any reason to shut this plant. No, we'll figure it out. We'll fix it. So if that doesn't bring it home, now people are waking up in Southern California about it. Activists have been quite successful, amazingly, but I guess not amazingly, when they can just say, look what's happening in Japan. The city of Irvine, always known to be conservative in Orange County, California, where it used to be thought that earthquakes don't happen here, they happen in Los Angeles. City of Irvine is pressing Southern California Edison to enlarge their emergency plans, which basically consist of nothing unless you're right on top of the plant. Maybe you get a few potassium iodide pills and directions to just head that way, kind of thing. This plant is within 50-mile radius. It's got about 8.5 million people in a 50-mile radius. So, if
I thought the NRC shut San Onofre down indefinitely.
Oh no! Yes, it's indefinite in that we don't have a start back update.
Right. Okay. That could be 2 months from now. Then, what you're saying?
Oh, costs them $1 million a day.
Mm-hmm.
They don't like it, but they can't do it.
Well, they just pass it along.
Shot.
They're just going to pass it along.
Them.
The customers will pay for it. Don't worry. Remember,
double.
Not one nuclear power plant has ever turned a penny profit for the customer. Never.
It's the most socialist program in government. We pay for it coming and going for a technology that is as dangerous as this. And it's the perfect crime because people are letting them do it. And, it can happen when it happens on your doorstep. That's when you wake up. But the thing is, no matter what I say, no matter what we say, it doesn't change this fact. Change begins from within. So if you take steps to protect yourself and yours and your property and your way of life, then you really made an advance. And we've got all sorts of stuff on our website to tell you about that. That's easy. It's not easy to do it. It'll make your life better. I mean, if I had unlimited money and all the great commercials on Jeff's site, I'd buy all that stuff. But you got to be prudent. So, but it can't be ignored. This villain is silent, you know, and invisible. You know he's there. You see what's happening. The jaws of this villain at Fukushima opened up. But you can't see him. And he's stealthy, and he doesn't care who you are. So, try to give yourselves a break and take some precautions. We're still, Jeff, we're in another before. What's coming is going to make what's happened just look like, God, I don't know. Like
I'm afraid you're right. Yeah.
Compared to a 7-course meal. The thing that gets me, though, is that it's self-apparent that something should be done, and all the countries of the world need to chip in if they can. No, and nothing.
Not happening. Not a thing. Nothing. No leadership anywhere. And there's a reason for that. There is a reason. I don't know what it is, but there is a reason that the world leadership is not demanding that the world's best and brightest get together. Because I guarantee you the world leadership knows what's going on. They are not stupid. They're kept informed. Something's up. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's a foregone conclusion that there's nothing that can be done, so why bother? Well, why bother? I would say, put the people to work. Maybe something will come up that no one's thinking about yet. They've got to try, but they're not trying, and that's Michael's point, and that's the part that is inexplicable, inexcusable, and imponderable. Be right back in just a minute. Okay, welcome back. Talking to Michael Collins. We do every Monday. We're trying to give you a full view. Now, you've looked at the nori, the seafood, that comes from Japan, and that's where most of it comes from. What else are you looking at? What else do you plan to look at? And again, we should just remind people, as a general rule of thumb, if it came from the Pacific Ocean now, don't eat it. I'm sorry to say it, but that's the truth. Just don't take the chance. Unless you don't give a damn. Then go ahead, have it, chow down.
Oh, wouldn't it buys that? Arnie Gunderson said that he would keep eating salmon out of the Pacific this year, but wouldn't next year. Oh, Arnie.
Arnie's, wait a minute. Arnie said that? They're already getting cesium way over limit in canned salmon from the North Pacific. Maybe he doesn't know.
Nah, I think he's being diplomatic or very foolhardy. You're loving that salmon too much.
I don't like that.
Listen, there's nothing that you have to give up that you can't replace with something else, especially this stuff. I don't know how many sushi lovers are in the crowd tonight, but the fact of the matter is, the original seaweed that we bought was this kind called nori, and it's like top of the line. It comes in these sheets, and it's grown way at the opposite bottom end of Japan in this bay that connects to the Pacific, but it's sheltered somewhat. And last year, Japanese sold $2 billion worth of just nori to America, and much of it ended up wrapped around sushi. Now, the thing is, it's self-evident. We know about the astronomical amounts of radioactive goo that has been generated and gone into the Pacific. And we know, and we've talked about, and have got maps about the currents and how they're spreading this stuff. That's just plain logical. It makes sense that an aquatic plant like seaweed would soak this stuff up. And indeed it does. But to answer your question, this isn't the only kind of seaweed that is grown around Japan. There are two others that are pretty big in the American diet because the Japanese have such a marvelous cuisine. Americans also eat this stuff called kombu. It's a large type of seaweed, and it's used in hot pot dishes and soup stock. It's got a big leaf to it. Now, the interesting thing about this seaweed, Jeff, is it's grown north of Fukushima. So that means...
Which side of the island, the east or the west, toward China?
Sort of on the north side. So kind of around the top. But the fact is that we have on this in this article, we have a link to that video I told you about, which shows people just a couple months ago coming back, just 65 miles north of Fukushima along the coast, and there they are harvesting seaweed. Now, I found out since we've last talked that out of the millions of fish imported into the United States since Fukushima, approximately 200 have been inspected by the FDA.
That many? Wow, they must have had overtime.
That many? That's what I said, too. That many?
Yeah.
Oh, it's grim. So,
well, inspected means they looked at them to see if they had gills and fins, I guess. They look. The EPA and the feds know exactly what's going on out there. They're just not going to ever tell us. That's the bottom line. They know what's contaminated. They know generally what's going on. This is all being tracked because the big boys and big girls at the top will want to know, and they're going to know, and they do know. But we're not to be told. It's not going to happen.
I just don't know where the money is in allowing your country and planet to be destroyed. If it's some sort of depopulation scheme, that's not the way to do it. Do you know what I mean? It's like of all the evil things that the powers that be, if they are truly aware of what this is and what it portends, to allow it to happen, it chills my blood. I think of words like treason, crimes against humanity, environmental genocide.
Well,
look
genocide,
what's
absolutely.
happening to our beautiful Pacific.
Right.
And we, as most people, 99 out of 100 will say, Fuka, what? Fuka, what? That's how much they care about the wildlife in the Pacific. And it will come back to haunt them on their plate. They will literally eat their words. And it doesn't have to be that way. I mean, being able to talk about it is important. But to know what's going on is also important. I've got some interesting things that have happened down here radiation-wise since we last talked. This morning we had a rain in L.A. I checked it, nothing in it for me. But about 13 miles away in Glendale, at Radiation Station Glendale, there was sustained over 3.5 times background in the rain and mist that was going on out there.
This is very interesting. Very interesting. Go ahead.
When I look at a map that we have in Beta Watch, which where we address radon progeny and radon daughters here in Santa Monica and the lack thereof, what it does show is at the far western end of the San Fernando Valley, there is a large radon-producing, high possibility of radon area about 15 miles to the west. And so I'm thinking with possible inversion layer, Jeff, it could just sort of float towards Glendale from west to east on the prevailing winds, and here come these rains and mists, and they grab a lot of it and take it to the ground. However, that doesn't account for a whole bunch of this stuff not decaying yet. And we've got pictures of him taking these readings just an hour or two ago, and it'll get your attention. I'll tell you another thing that'll get your attention is when everything hits the fan in Fukushima again. And we're all like, oh, my God, you're going to go, why didn't I get a Geiger counter? Why didn't I get that air cleaner? Because now there's a run on them, or water cleaner. And, all these things are things you need anyway.
Now, you're talking about a HEPA filter.
Oh, I'm afraid to say it.
Yeah. You got it right.
Mispronounce it.
HEPA. Like if you're HEP.
Yeah. Yeah, and you will be HEP. And here's another thing. I've had a good old time in my life. And I think when you look at Jeff's site, when you look at what Jeff's done, he's having a good time. I'm having such a good time being able to be on this show, even though we talk about grim stuff. But you want to know what? I know people, some of which are listening right now, that have maybe the probability statistically of outliving me by, like, say, 30 years. And I'm wondering, where are you at? I don't see any awareness of this amongst the vast majority of kids that you would think would be like, oh my God, they're wrecking everything. And if the attitude is, I'm too busy plunking into this electronic gadget in my hand to tell somebody my brilliant thoughts ad nauseum, okay, if that pulls rank on this, I understand that, except that if you think that that's out of control, I can't do anything about it, it's far away, I'm going to believe the government, not this guy, then I just beg you to consider this. If you think what's happening now is bad, what's coming is worse, because we've got 104 of these reactors in this country, and we're having mega storms with tornadoes, with winds of hundreds of miles an hour. We've got to pray they don't go near our nuke plant. We have fracking that is causing earthquakes up the eastern seaboard, places where the reactors aren't built to withstand earthquakes of the kind we get in California. You have this earthquake this morning signaling to Denise and I that the big one is right around the bend here in California. We are on full alert, and it's not because we're paranoid. We're not paranoid. We're prepared. Why would we be paranoid? We've already know, like, okay, you're doing this. I know where you are. This is what we would do, kind of thing. You've got to look out for yourselves, because there's going to come a point where it's just inevitable that the geology down here in L.A. is going to let it loose. And it's not just the San Onofre that we have to worry about. We have to worry about a place called Diablo Canyon, which is to the opposite direction of Los Angeles. And the size of the quakes that we're seeing around the world, Jeff, that volcano going off in Mexico City,
yeah.
I mean, it's everywhere but here in Southern California.
Well, it's clear that the geology of the planet is on the move. The planet is stretching, groaning, moving. It's not in its somnambulant state. It is fully alert, and it's alive, and it's showing it.
Oh yeah, and we're riding on that surfboard really hard on that wave, and we're not looking at how big that wave is behind us. And you know, for this planet, we're nothing. Think about it. Dinosaurs ruled this planet for hundreds of millions of years, and look at how little time it took us to just wreck the place. And for folks who follow UFOs, that it was when we started playing with nukes that all these reports started to shoot through the roof. And we can see what we can do with these things, and is it worth it? Now, I'm a journalist. I'm supposed to just be reporting, but I obviously have an opinion. I mean, I wouldn't advocate, if I was a reporter and was saying, you know, there are these cars that don't have seatbelts, but, you know, I have to get both sides here. The guy who made the car says, yeah, just wreck the look of the seats. I'm not going to have seatbelts. So I report it that way. I wouldn't report it that way.
Right.
So that's what we have here.
Yeah, very good. Michael, thanks again for everything you do. We'll be looking for you at EnviroReporter.com. And there are so many people now that go there to see what's happening, not just in Southern Cal, of course, but from all over the place. So congratulations on the efforts you're making and the results you're giving all of us. Thank you. And thank Denise. And we'll talk to you.
She is waving and it has a big wink for you.
All right. Well, thanks. Same back to her. Talk to you next week. Okay. Be well.
Thank you.
All right. Michael Collins. All right. That's our program tonight. We've run out of time. We'll be right back with you tomorrow night. Have a good one. Take care.